everybody, first of all. I think I need the microphones. I am very honored to be here today. Thank you for the presentation. I want to say thanks to St. Stephen's first because, as I said, I've been working for the school for many years, and when I was proposed to come here to talk about legal matters, criminal law, and some thinking about comparative law, because this is the scope of our seminar today, which I hope is going to be interesting for all of you. I accepted with a lot of pleasure and honor because, as I said, for me, St. Stephen's has always been part of my daily work and a very long relation. The seminar today is going to be a presentation from my side, and then we will have some question and answer on specific matters. So also please remember to make questions that are of general interest if you want to. I will talk a little bit about our criminal law system, our judicial system in general, make some points about the differences between the world. This is an international school. You have to be proud of it. You have multinational individuals in this room, I believe, so I'm talking to different nationality. I personally, my practice is with international, public and private, which means public state, means international organization like the one beside here, or religious organization, which they are more international, they define themselves global or universal, like the church, like the Islam. So it's, and today the issue of global and international cannot be forgotten in any sector. So whatever you're going to be doing in your life, you will have to face with the competitive analysis of a market if you're selling something, or a jurisdiction if you're going to be a lawyer, a judge, or even just an observer if you're going to be a journalist following. It's very important today, and I will start from this, said that of course I will be focused on Italian law because I'm an Italian lawyer. Io sono un avvocato qui a Roma. I work here on my ordinary. But I think it's very important to start from the definition of the jurisdiction. Jurisdiction is very often, and I'll make some example, is confusing people, especially those who are not technical. Jurisdiction, for those of you, I need to just explain, is the rules, the laws, the norms that they are applicable within a specific territory, within a specific state. So together with jurisdiction, you also have to define the state. So what is a state? Which is a state? The Vatican is a state, and it's only 40 hectares, but it's a state. It's recognized by the other states. And there's a major principle that again is very often forgotten, that each state is not on top of another state. They're all at the same level. Pars inter pares non est jurisdictio. This is what the Latin used to say. So there is no jurisdiction, so nobody can challenge a party of the same level. And the states are all at the same level. And each state has a territory, has a population, has norms, rules, and has also authorities, which mean judges, magistrate, government, monarchy, whatever. So said that all the states are all the same, it's very important, whatever you are doing or wherever you are in the world, to know what is the local jurisdiction and how you have to respect the local jurisdiction, especially if you feel that some of the rules are different from your home country. And personally, I think one of the mistakes very often done is to say, my law, my rules, what I have in my home is better than yours. And you see how this, I'm talking from a practical legal practitioner, I'm not a politician, but how often this misunderstanding of application of rules, they create political problems. For example, the case we have today with our military in India, we have 2 soldiers on the trial in India for a murder in Morocco. It's now a political case, it's not a matter of law and trial and jurisprudence and also jurisdiction. And so said that is, it's important to define, and for those of you who are not Italian, you have to respect what is here in Italy, whatever you're doing in this country, in terms of civil, in terms of criminal responsibility. The law, as you all know is divided in two main branches. One is the civil, one is the criminal. Criminal we define as a public action, because it's not me against Eric Meyer or Eric Meyer against me for a credit, for a right, for a car accident, for a neighbor problem, a contract. But in criminal law, you're at the state assessing if a fact has a crime. And if there is a crime, then there will be a sentence, a conviction, and there will be also a punishment. It's important to know this. I want to be very practical. We had an example on Friday. I was called because a son of a foreigner living in Rome was driving a car and he had a car accident. He hit a motorcycle and the person on the bike went to the hospital. The boy was 17. But he had a driving license, because in his country, he had his driving license. So we were, of course, called by the police. We had to go and explain. And there was a misunderstanding, what I'm saying now. So the application of my jurisdiction, my principle, my also culture, when you're traveling around the world, it has to be adjusted with the local rules. In this case, of course, it's illegal to drive when you're not 18. No matter if you have a driving license from abroad, that driving license is not valid. So it's a violation. There will be a criminal charge. And I had severe difficulty to explain that the documentation from abroad was not applicable. This applies to a number of rules. We have rules about carrying knives. This is something that happens all the time. This hobby of carrying small knives that they guarantee of safety, or it's just a way of showing, it's illegal. It's an army, it's a weapon. We have a law on weapons in this country that prohibits any carrying of any knife, even a small one. This is not important in terms of what happens, because the police will be very tolerant, especially for young and the first time. We have special laws also for juvenile, and there's a pardon. The first time you make a crime, you get a pardon. So it's like they forget about the crime. But it goes into your record. Today we are, in Italy, we are not a state. We are a union of states. We are 27 states in the European Union. And we're going to have a European criminal database. There is already a database for fingerprints. There will be a database for DNA. There will be a database for all the taxes, the social security. So this is what matters from my perspective in a situation like this. Be sure that you do respect, even if you're coming from another country, what exists in Italy and what happens. As mentioned, I was involved, and that's one of the reasons I've been called here, in a major case that was very noisy. It was a student from America, Amanda Knox, that came to Perugia to study for a year, and there was a terrible murder. It was a terrible murder. Another student living in the same house was found murdered. And this caused a trial. She went on the trial. She couldn't hardly speak Italian. And there's been a lot of misunderstanding. Of course, the fact was terrible. I mean, there was a terrible murder, and the murder has to be processed. The authority, they do a very difficult job. So again, a small advice, I'm also a father myself of 3 kids. Do respect the police officer, from the municipale to the carabinieri, to any military that will ask you, because they do a very difficult job. And it's very important to collaborate. Whatever there's an assessment, whenever there is a crime, whenever there's a fight on the street, whenever you go to the stadium and something happens over there, do collaborate, explain, give you ID, and never be an antagonist. Even if sometimes the police might be aggressive, but I said, they do a very difficult job. So, said that, in that case, there was a typical situation where the understanding, the knowledge of what was really happening was not fully given to the girl, and the Knox didn't really understand what happened, and she was then interrogated. Then after she was arrested, because they immediately thought she was the responsible. After 10 days, there was another gentleman, was found based on evidence, because there were fingerprints and DNA. And he's then made a plea bargaining, he recognized, he's now serving a final decision in prison. And the case of Amanda Knox is today still pending. I've been involved from day one, which goes back to November 2007. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 7 years. Next year is in 2015. So we're going into the 8 years. Legal matters in this country, despite I think the fairness of the rules and the respect of the human rights and the right of defense and so on, they are in fact quite slow. We are known to be very slow in our process of justice. Years and years to get a decision. And this is one of the problems perhaps we will need to, as an Italian, we will need to improve in the future. And I think there's been some reform on this. But criminal law difference, I'm not going through detail because I know most of you probably don't even think, but for those of you who will be a lawyer, you're thinking to be a judge, which is a great profession. It's a great profession, especially if you do it worldwide. Because you have different rules, you have different culture, different people, and if you handle the same matter, the fact that you have all this variation, it's a great life, I think. It's a great life, and also personally, I think there will be a future. Because more and more, there is now this compliance, legal compliance everywhere, that in the last 10 years has grown, and so it will be a profession that I'm sure is not going to suffer in the future. But it's important to know what are the differences here. I want to just underline some of the differences. Said that our country is a very old country in terms of law. We go back to the Roman law. I'm sure your teachers have mentioned this. Our first collection of law, which was 50 books, goes back to the Digesto. The Digesto is the first collection of law that was ordered by an imperator. That was 2,200 years ago. If you just walk to the Colosseo, on both sides you have the Forum. The Forum, which in Latin means piazza, it's a public square. Public square where on one side there were political discussion openly, and that's the base of democracy. To give words to everybody, listen to everybody, take a vote and decide by majority. And on the other side we had the trial. All the big lawyers, all the big cases those days, they were murdered those days also. There was many, and in that piazza they would organize 2,000 years ago a trial almost like we're doing now. There would be a judge, there would be a defense, there would be a prosecutor making the accusation, the defendant, the witness, the people listening, and there would be a verdict. Exactly what we're doing now. So the main principles are almost worldwide. The application is different. We said that some of the differences between Italy, for example, is the punishment. The punishment varies. Country like America, in some states have the death penalty. We don't have death penalty. Most of the European countries, they don't have death penalty. And there's also the time. If you compare America to Italy, to get a decision, you start on Monday and by Friday you have a decision. We have hearings every day. Here we have hearings every 15 days or even longer. We have 3 grades of decision. When a decision is made, you can appeal. And then there is a 3rd grade, which is the Supreme Court. For us, the Supreme Court, for those of you who will study eventually, I also advise you to have a visit. It's right here. It's the big building, the white building on Piazza Cavour, la Corte di Cassazione. It's the 3rd grade. So all the cases, almost all the cases, they go to the 3rd grade to get reviewed. The reason is simple. Everybody can make mistakes, including judges. So it's the legislator that has given the possibility to review a mistake. I get sentenced the 1st grade. Is that final? In some countries around the world, it's final. You don't have the right of appeal. Here we have the possibility to challenge. And the idea is that when a group of judges will review the same case, there will be a second decision. Is that final? Maybe not. We need to go again. And let's go to the Supreme Court, another group of magistrates. And of course, the hierarchy of the magistrate goes also with the quality and, let's say, the experience. The more experienced judges are in the Supreme Court. And they also review the case for the 3rd time. So at the end, you get to the point that if there was a mistake, either it was cancelled, it was signed, it was amended, because all this group of different independent magistrates, they have reviewed the case. This is different. In America, you have two, most of the time you have an appeal, the ne bis in idem principle, which is nobody can be challenged twice for the same matter. The double jeopardy, it's called. We have the same here. But you need to finalize the 3 grades. The final decision is a final decision. To go back to the case of Amanda Knox, this is not a final decision. She was sentenced, she was acquitted, the Supreme Court sent her back for a review in Florence, she was sentenced again, guilty, and we are now back to the Supreme Court for the appeal. So there is a decision of criminal responsibility today, but it's not final. And you can see this for many other cases that are on the paper. And despite the fact that maybe it's a bit slow, I think at the end it gives a guarantee. So when you get to the final decision, that's really a decision that has been reviewed, challenged, checked, double checked, and if there was a mistake, normally the mistake is amended. The investigation and the magistrate, it's very important to understand this. In criminal law, you have one person representing the state, okay? Il procuratore, il pubblico ministero. He's the one that also makes the investigation at the beginning. So the case of the boy driving without the driving license, we will go to a prosecutor very quickly. Actually tomorrow. Tomorrow we have to appear in front of the prosecutor, and the prosecutor will decide on behalf of the state. He's representing the state, he's the public prosecutor, if there should be a trial or the case can be dismissed. This is important. Then the magistrate is something different. You appear in front of a magistrate and you ask the magistrate to listen to the prosecutor, to listen to the defense, and if you go to a court, and please make a visit, we can organize eventually one, you understand how also there's a formality. The judge is sitting there, the prosecutor is sitting here, the defense is sitting here. It's like in the show in TV, even though the shows, they tend to be exaggerated. But that's the way. So you listen, you give a right to defense, and then there will be a decision. In the international world, we also have bilateral agreement. There's agreements for everything today, and in judicial matter, this has become very useful and practical, especially when they look into criminal association of drug dealers, for example, where there's a production in South America, there's a distribution in Spain, there's a payment in Switzerland, and the boss of the boss, either it's from Sicily or Italy, or could be from Bulgaria, from Ukraine. So today also the crime is becoming international. With the banks, this is quite also the financial crimes. So the value of the cooperation is very important and has also increased. So it's very easy to get access to information from all over the world, to database, to know exactly what happened. And I think this will also increase in the future. Again, this is a very important sector for all of us. I would stop here asking if anyone wants to, if something that is not clear what I said, please ask me to clarify. And of course, if anybody of you wants to make a question, personal question, something practical that happens, we're very happy to reply. We have 1, 2, yeah, please.
You mentioned the length of criminal cases in Italy, and it seems that one of the 3 priorities of the present government, Mr. Renzi, is for judicial reform. So what do you see as what needs to be reformed in the judicial system? Is it the case that, yes, you have 3 grades of decision, however, the length of time which Italy has, the longest of the European countries, has the longest period of time, that could be viewed as unjust, because somebody has to wait 9 years before they are acquitted. So what do you think is, what is the judicial reform that needs to be done? That's basically the question.
Yes,
Yes, well, this is, thank you very much for the question. It's a very difficult question to reply because many governments, they try to improve. We are, as I said, together with the Union today. And we signed, the European Union, they signed a treaty for protection of human rights. The Convention on Human Rights can give also the possibility of a sanction if you violate. One of the principles in the Convention is the right of defense. You cannot challenge an individual without giving the right of defense, which means to be informed. The police, even if it's a foreigner, and you can imagine how many foreigners every day they get stuck in Italy. We have this problem of the migrants today, so and this is giving a lot of work. And all the documents have to be translated. So the right to be informed, the right to be informed properly, the right to get a lawyer, to get a fair trial, and also to defend. And Italy has been sanctioned by Strasbourg. The court is in Strasbourg. A lot of people, they went to Strasbourg and said, but what they're doing in Italy is not correct. It's too long, and I didn't understand. My documents were all in Italian. I'm from Romania. I didn't know anything about what they were doing. And so this is a big issue, and they're trying to improve. What I can say from my perspective is that today technology is changing also our life. We can file paper online. We have access to all the documents, all the serving. You know, each document has to be served. La notifica, dalla multa alla sentenza di condanna has to be notificata, which means that somebody has to come and come to you, give it to you, you sign for receipt. And this has been a big problem, de facto big problem. Today with technology we have the electronic email and access to the file and the possibility also to have hearings, video conference via Skype. This in America, for example, you gave a big example already with big cases. This was implemented, and I think this is part of the way to eliminate all the pending cases, to give the possibility to have access to the file, make copies quickly. And for the Tate Grace, there's some discussion. It's a bit technical, but some of the cases, maybe they don't need Tate cases. I mean, a big criminal case, you need to be sure what you're doing. We're talking about the life of a person in prison. But a car accident or a labor matter where I'm asking €1,000 of difference on my salary because I did extra hours on a Sunday has to go all the way to the Supreme Court. So they are making some kind of, the proposal is also to divide, to say, you know, simple cases, something that can be challenged, you have one grade and second grade and then it's finished, labor. Which I think is fair. I'm personally, I'm in favor of that. I must say that the magistrate here is a profession that you can do as a lawyer also, once you have a law degree. The magistrate, they really work in difficult situations. We have court of appeal, we have 20 court of appeal in Italy. Some of the structure, the physical place, the courts are not up to date, they have no facilities, so they really work in a very difficult situation. And that is another thing that I hope some of the reform will improve our system. Okay, I think there was somebody up there. Thank you.
What is the point of all this? What is the point of having a law system? I mean, you have to say, oh, well, it helps us so what?
What is the point? Well, because you have a right. You go to court when you feel there is a right that has been violated on your side. You sign a contract with me, and as I said, it's a very simple question, but it's important. Why you go to court? First of all, without justice, you have no peace. In the world today, there's a lot of places where there's no justice, where people are violated every day, they have not a right to speak, they cannot go on the street, and there's no peace, there is a war, there's people killing. And the justice has this function, and has to work, because a justice that doesn't work is the same as not having it, or it's a fixed justice. When you have a dictator, we have so many examples, from Gaddafi Saddam Hussein, to Ceausescu, Romania. There was no law those days. There was a person deciding for everybody. And if you have a right with me, you have a contract with me, I sold you something and you're not paying, there's a right violated. This is disabled. For the criminal is, again, a violation of one of the normal protected rights by the state, like life, like your property. If I come and I steal your car, that's a crime. You have a right to make a complaint, and the state has a duty to guarantee peace. That's why everybody will go and rob cars. To sentence me and to apply a punishment. And I should not be free, I should be then in court.